here to fight for the establishment,
I want to bring
or
up
they're
the
here.
elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is race. Why is it that white, especially young white people, but white people in general went for Bernie, and people who are not white went for Hillary
But that
Clinton?
breaks down when you look at it by age.
Because Bill
though.
Clinton can play a
Even-
saxophone.
That
I'm gonna tell you.
even when you look at it by
I want
age.
to answer that question as the only black guy. I can say that it's a lot of levels to that question. If you look, okay, black people in New York voted primarily for Bernie Sanders. So you know,
really?
Yes. So
Okay.
so you know, it's more of a geographic
And he
thing.
did pretty good with Latinos too, didn't he?
It's yeah, he did pretty good with Latinos as well, but it's more of a geographic thing in that in the South, African Americans went for Hillary overwhelmingly. Majority of African Americans in the United States live within the southeastern United States of America. So, you know, the majority of those people did vote overwhelmingly for Hillary, but outside of that, same cannot be said in California, can't be said in the Northeast. But the reason why she did so well in the South is because she was married to a Democratic Southern governor who was a really good governor and a really good president. And although there were a lot of things there were some things that the Clintons did that hindered black people as far as the criminal justice system is concerned.
Is that considered coonery and fuckery?
But when it comes to economics, black people excelled in the 90s. We don't the Clinton administration.
The ones that weren't in jail.
But
only the ones in the South.
They can't vote.
not only the ones in the South, but the one, like I said, the majority of African Americans in America live in the southeastern United States.
Right, but the argument you're making is that Southern blacks voted differently than blacks in the rest of the country.
Because
right?
the African Americans in the South within
Are
the
less
Democratic Party.
educated.
No, within the Democratic Party, they have a historical reference to the Clintons in a way that the rest of the nation doesn't.
Which was what?
Well, okay.
that Bill Clinton's from the South?
There was weird
that is
stuff.
something.
I tried.
Saxophone, man.
I remember one guy.
Saxophone.
There was one guy I talked to actually right outside Bernie headquarters. A guy who was sitting there like a couple of businesses down, and you know, he's an older black dude sitting there. I started asking him about like who he was voting for. It was a couple days before the primary, and you know, he said Hillary Clinton. I just kept asking. I was like, why not Bernie? You know, I gave the reasons. You know, made a good argument, and he just kept saying, I'm a Bill Clinton guy. I'm a Bill Clinton guy. That was literally his only response.
And like, that goes back to what I said about black people in the South having
So
this affinity for
I think
Bill
it's
Clinton.
between that weird affinity, which I don't like. It doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe Bridgemon, you can illuminate.
Yeah,
but I think it's
that
between.
doesn't make any sense to me either.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, but it's just,
Okay, so
it is
it's
what it
just-
is.
It's just an accepted fact.
It
But I
is
think
what it
between
is.
that and I think, you know, younger people have more reliance, like we were talking about this earlier, have more reliance on, you know, social media, which is where people heard about Bernie. That's how I would not have known who Bernie Sanders was.
A lot of the
year.
black political leaders are for her as well, especially from the South.
And
You know,
But a lot of
And why is
white
that,
political
Bridgemon?
leaders in Congress were for Bernie Sanders too. So there's the only difference is for some reason you're saying African Americans followed their leaders, whereas white people did not.
I'm saying that when
Or
somebody like a
would have
John
to be your
Lewis,
claim.
when somebody like a John Lewis endorses a candidate that has a lot of weight in Southern African Americans,
But when
a lot of it
Sherrod
too-
especially older African Americans.
I think a lot of it had to do with TV. Just older people, older people in general, but you know, older black people in the South too. They're older people. They rely more on TV than on social media, like the younger generations. I mean, if you don't hear Bernie making his argument,
And
why
they
are
know
you gonna vote for
know
him?
the Clintons. They
Yeah.
know the Clintons.
Like
They're
Clinton
familiar with
won
them.
by default unless Bernie could break through that, and he couldn't.
And I'll go back to my point
Understandably.
that I don't think Bernie Sanders ran a campaign to win, and I don't think he went after the black vote like he knew he had to in order to win.
I think that's not true.
After
he
the
went
first
after
I
day,
think he
no,
went,
after-
and he went, especially in South Carolina.
but not till after New Hampshire and Iowa.
I think in South
he
Carolina,
didn't hit it
did.
until he did not hit it until New Hampshire and Iowa. He did not
It
think
was
he
a
had a
good-
chance, and all of a sudden he was like, "Oh shit, we need to run a presidential campaign."
But here's the thing. So you could say that for South Carolina and say he didn't win in South Carolina because of that, but he went on to lose other southern states later on,
like
including
a week later, and
And not
everyone
even just
knows
a
the
week
reason he
later.
invested so many.
It's not just a week later.
I know, it's not-
all the southern states.
But even
gave
in the
it to
beginning,
Hillary in
every
huge
southern state.
numbers.
You know, in the beginning,
And
none
that
of
was
the- none of the-
primarily because
but what
African
would have
Americans in the
changed,
South
though?
voted for Hillary.
What would have changed though between those couple weeks between South Carolina and the other southern states?
That's what
why
I'm
would
saying.
that have changed?
Well, I'm saying that
He
it
didn't get much more
change.
media coverage at the time, so it couldn't have been that.
No, but I'm saying that it didn't change, right? That's what's fascinating is that this isn't just
Why-
some kind of
I'm just saying, why
he didn't
wouldn't-
have
I would
enough
argue
time.
he got a
had
fair
time
amount of
and
coverage
lost.
during South Carolina
Still.
campaign. South Carolina, I think he was.
But that was like the first of his coverage ever.
Like,
Not only that, but when he was
and that's
able
another
to,
thing.
to-
People are being introduced to Bernie Sanders, and people already know.
Yeah,
that.
Man,
it's like,
did
oh,
he- did
Hillary
he have
Clinton, I've
that
known
much-
you for 20 years.
Yeah,
Let
you
me
know?
say this, okay? Did he have that much more time for South Carolina than he did for Nevada? Because he managed to go to Nevada and almost win. I think he did. I think he did win with white voters in Nevada, but he lost in South Carolina with black voters.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't suggest to me that he didn't have enough time. That suggests to me that there's something.
I mean, there's that weird dynamic that we can't explain. Yeah,
yeah, whatever
I
it
don't
was
know.
that Bridgemon
the
was
Clinton
talking
thing, the
about.
media talks about
I
it.
mean,
too.
it exists.
Yeah, the
It
media
does
talks
exist.
about it just like it's just this weird affinity that, you know.
I
And
actually think
it is old. It's old. It's like, I would say 45 plus, even 50 plus, because you know those are the base voters of the African American demographic. It's older women, black women. They are like the number one voting
Number one
demographic
turnout,
in the South, definitely. So
I think in the country too.
yeah, I think
that's
so.
the
I think
highest-
you're right. I
as
think
a
you are.
demographic, they have
I
the
think you
highest
are
rate of
as
voter
they are
turnout.
the highest voting demographic, and I think they have.
like the most likely to turn out. You know?
Right, and
Right.
they're comfortable. They're comfortable with her. They have an affinity
And
with
it's
her.
time for a woman.
I mean, that is a piece of it too. And you
I
look
wouldn't
at
disagree
the
with
reason-
that. I'll just say, well, wish a woman. Hold on, is Sarah Palin and Carly Fiorina just, I'm gonna throw them up there too? No, that's not a good argument.
I mean, but you can't. I mean, and that's another thing. You guys have a very negative view of this woman, and it's mostly based off of right wing Republican
Oh
talking
my
points
God,
for
hold
the
on,
last
hold
30
on.
years.
Oh.
That's where I mean.
Look,
that's
this is
where
what.
it comes from.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
No,
it's
it
based
doesn't.
on. I mean,
Bridgemon, when have you heard point to one right winger who talked about how she was saying that we need to deport Honduran refugees? Tell me one right winger who called you out for that.
That's
Tell
not
me
even,
one right
that's
winger.
Not not a major talking point either of the Bernie Sanders campaign.
Yes, it is.
That's not a major talking
don't
point
feel
that
like
I've
And
you're
it's
heard.
not a major
Right.
point of the campaign, but his
No.
supporters are. Go on Twitter, dude. Go on Twitter. Go hashtag Honduras, dude. You're gonna find a bunch of shit about Hillary.
I thought their main argument
Bernie's-
was that she's corrupt and she's a part of the system.
Yes, but
the
that's all
same-
part of it.
the
I mean,
same-
it's-
Which is actually the Republican argument.
Right. So and that's
well, okay. There's that's part of
Hillary.
that's
Hillary came from Bernie supporters.
this is
Yeah.
part of her problem.
Yeah,
like,
before Steen was saying
Yeah,
it,
well,
the
yeah.
Republicans were saying it.
Steen did start that. I think if we go, search the hashtags on Twitter. First Hillary will be Steen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, look at she is such. This is why she's such a weak candidate, though, is because in America we've realized,
She's not a weak candidate. Not you can't
right
say
now
that.
she is
Not
for this election
compared
against
to
Trump.
Donald Trump.
She's not weak against Trump, except in this one perspective where let me pull this up, too. Basically, it comes down to corruption. Crooked Hillary. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but there's grains of there's
Prove my
truth to
point.
that. I know. But look, I'm proving
Yeah,
my
this
point. My point is there are real things. I mean, did she runs a foundation that's taken how many millions of dollars from foreign
The
dictators?
Clinton
I mean, I get
Foundation
it.
is
I get
Bill
that.
Clinton's
I get that. It's a philanthropic
foundation.
How
charity
dare he have a charity that's funded by people that
By Muslims.
we don't like?
By fucking Muslims.
by Muslims, by
Muslims.
theocrats who will execute a woman for getting too uppity.
But if a theocrat is willing to give you $10 million to go do
Yeah,
something
what does
about
that say?
disease,
But if you can take that
I
$10 million and give 1 million people cell phones in Africa.
Okay, but here's the problem
Yeah,
then.
like,
Like,
would you
it would
not
be
take
one
that?
thing. It would be one thing if she just took things from like Saudi Arabia, took hundreds of thousands of dollars from Saudi Arabian royalty for a charity. But it's another if she's Secretary of State and a couple years later gives them like a $30 billion weapon deal to the same brutal theocracy where they have so many.
Oh, so you're
problems.
saying that's a paper
Probably, like,
play?
this is a whole other conversation about foreign policy in the Middle East. But like,
right.
There is an appearance of a conflict of interest.
yeah, and where
I
there's
don't-
appearance,
I don't
like
see where there's a conflict of interest.
how does
I
that?
said there's an appearance.
How do you? Yeah. Do you
of
think?
a conflict
How is
of
there not an
interest.
appearance? Do you think the appearance is not genuine? If people think they see that, like,
If I am
you're
a
saying that's-
global philanthropic organization, I am soliciting every single country for donations.
And look, if I'm
Every
gonna be
world
real,
leader.
like that's the perfect
If
cover.
Kim Jong-un gives me a fucking check for $10 million, I'm going to cash the check and have a charity for combating hunger in North Korea.
I'll say this: I'd be a little more concerned if Hillary Clinton was like the person running it, but it's really Bill Clinton that's the person running it, and to some degree Chelsea Clinton.
Not even
So,
Bill
I mean,
or
that would-
Chelsea. There are
that would
other
have to
people
be
running
right,
the
and
organization.
then there's other people that are doing like the fundraising. So that would have
And,
to be a pretty diabolical
So
plan.
I heard National Archives are
to-
going to release
to have
new.
that
I heard
be a
National
conflict of
Archives are going to
interest.
release new pictures of Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
Well,
I didn't know there
be-
were more, but that's cool.
That'll probably be kind of funny.
I mean, these
I'm
are
gonna
people
have
that they've
fun
known
with
for
them
40
playing
years. I'm sure there's some other
I
pictures
know.
out
This
there.
is part of the problem, though. Like, they're the same part of this crooked political establishment. And look, what happens if Donald Trump, has got a buddy at Goldman Sachs who's hardcore Republican, hardcore Trumper, and just happens to have access to the transcripts for his speech, and all of a sudden those come out, like a couple weeks before the election in November. I mean, these are real problems. Not to mention she's under FBI investigation.
you
for
actually
she
think it would
probably,
be that bad?
if we're being honest, I didn't. I wasn't sure at first, but at this point, I think she probably broke the law. Dealing with the
When-
servers on the emails.
Okay.
What law did she
What
break?
law did she break? Exactly. Thank you, Joe.
Saying national security secrets on her private server. I mean, she had documents with
Okay, if
on her
it's not,
private.
okay, let me just say something. Okay, when you have an email conversation, there might be something in the earlier emails that's not classified, and then later on within the conversation, it gets to become a classified conversation. So a lot of anything that's questionable is related to such type of emails. So there's no classified. There's nothing that was classified at the time that she talked about on the private emails.
And,
I'm
that's
just gonna
not
be-
what the State
I think-
Department was upset with her about either. Like the State Department.
I'm not sure
did their
that's
own
actually
review.
true, Bridgemon. I
And-
think some things just weren't marked as classified, but they were still
I
had
heard,
classified
but weren't there
material.
some correspondences
marked-
where
okay.
she ordered her staff to change the classification of?
So the State Department
But
did an
I'm not-
internal review, right?
I'm not
And
super excited
the
about
State,
her
what the
emails.
State Department said that Hillary Clinton did wrong was that she just didn't follow protocol by having her own private server.
Another right-wing attack.
They also the state. Well,
Emails.
no, this is the State Department. The State Department also noted that previous secretaries of state have done the same thing, and that that's also problematic and also
Right.
a violation of procedure.
So are we
But
gonna-
violating workplace procedure
Yeah, let's
is the
pro-
kind of thing that maybe
prosecute
you
them
could
all.
say you could get fired for,
But
but
not
that's not the
federally
law. That's,
indicted.
you can't be taken to court for doing something that.
And if
it's-
she
it's
is taking a
protocol
cut,
of
you
your
also have to
job.
take Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell court.
Good.
You have
Right.
to- so
Well,
And
she's in
even-
great
yeah.
company, isn't she?
well, actually, I think those are some of the greatest
She just
secretaries of
got
state.
what
the
Dick
United States
Armitage's
presidents have ever had.
endorsement.
Yeah, I
Charles
kinda-
Koch is all right with her, dude. She's raking in these Republican endorsements, dude. She's got those donors. Oh, and then you hear Wall Street now her Wall Street donors are telling her if she chooses Elizabeth Warren as her VP that
We should
Yeah,
have
pull
that as
some
we
funding.
should have that as the topic.
David Petraeus got
Because it'd
off,
be
right?
awesome.
He didn't have to go to jail for handing out classified
Sure,
information.
but what he did actually—that's interesting, and what he did actually was
Yeah.
illegal.
Illegal.
That actually was
Yeah.
a
That's
law.
illegal.
That wasn't
Yeah.
just like procedure.
Not
Yeah,
only
yeah.
did he give
Yeah.
classified
Democratic
information
smears.
to his, he did not.
left-wing propaganda.
He did not give classified information not only to his mistress but a member of the media as well.
Yeah.
So that is
That man was a corrupt pimp.
So are you
That's-
guys suggesting that
Corrupt
members of the
Republican
political
pimp.
establishment are above the law?
no. I'm not
Oh, hey.
Suddenly the backtrack.
Hello.
no, not at all.
I'll leave it to the wisdom of the audience. I don't think that we made that argument at all.
I have something to
I
say.
haven't looked into it enough, but all I know is she's been under investigation for how long? Like, it's a liability at least.